If you look at the whole digital maturity curve and you see the fintechs of the world and the e-commerce of the world in the far right, and then it's an S curve essentially, and towards the left of that S is where shipping and a lot of traditional industries sit.
When it comes to traditional industries, there are already a lot of processes and there are so many touch points.
And Stolt Tankers is a very interesting company. If you study its history, of course, it was formed more than half a century back. We are still one of the pioneers in liquid chemical shipping.
There is a lot more responsibility to bringing our craft to a traditional company.
The then president, Lucas Voss, his ask was very clear. Digital needs to make money. He really wanted to understand how can digital change the bottom line of the company.
So when we approach a traditional field with a point of view of transforming that industry digitally, we learn on the job about how things are operating. But we don't have that mindset that this is how things have always been running.
You cannot really create a digital interface towards the customers with a very manual process internally. I think for me the biggest deal breaker was, is this data even available in digital format? For a very long time, the process for bringing crew on board, managing all their documentation and even managing their expenses or advances or everything that the crew needs to do to essentially work with Stolt was a highly manual process.
There is information moving from email to a phone call to an Excel sheet to a printout. So many people across so many geographies and time zones. Too much of information flowing in too many different places adds a lot of delay, makes everything slow.
And the crew, which is probably spending 6 months on board the ship, away from their families, and sometimes even more. When they come to a port, they want to take some advances and go and buy some things, for their family members. So that's a petty cash that the captain keeps, and then he kind of gives them to the crew to spend it. The captain was maintaining an Excel file. People used to, reconciliation was difficult because sometimes you forget, sometimes you don't forget. There was no approval workflows that could be properly governed. So as we started peeling that onion, we figured out that there were many layers that we needed to look at to really make digital stick in Stolt Tankers.
They are trying to understand the whole system, the process, the current ways of working.
And that takes a lot of time and a lot of iterations to really figure out.
Hence, the role of designer here is not just like an experience alone. There is an invisible layer of process which comes into the picture.
Once the transition was completed, we had to make sure the data was still available to make business decisions, because the self-service portal was dealing with a lot of financial records, invoices, billing information and things like that.
And also sometimes it is the customer requirement, right? So a lot of our customers have been working like this for a very long time. So in a way, if you look at the digital world, we didn't only had to change Stolt Tankers. We had to actually actively work with our customers to also change the ways of their working at the end of the day.
It took us some significant time to come to the solution, but this challenge gave us a way forward in multiple other instances where similar problems came up.
So we kind of changing that ecosystem to a certain extent.
This itself empowers the users to be more optimal in the way they are approaching anything on their day-to-day basis.
And now we have completely made this process online through the system, where the advances can be requested, they can be approved by the captain, and it automatically syncs through our payroll teams to be able to make that process much easier.
So what used to take maybe a week or so can now easily take maybe an hour or.
With the new designs that we did recently, there was a lot of positive feedback from the crew that they find it very, very easy to use, and it's not complex and it works. I think now we have a much more happier crew than what we used to have previously.
Aubergine is brought on as an innovation partner to bring digital transformation.
I think in the work that we have done in the last few years, we've completely digitized that process. We were actually ahead of some of our vendor partners in building these solutions, and then being one of the first in the market to be able to completely build something what we call as a crew self-service app.
And through our craft of design and engineering, we are able to create new experiences and efficiencies for traditional businesses. And that is the wonderful thing about this partnership.